Welcome, everyone. Today is Monday, July 17, 2023, and this is a regular meeting of the City of Asbury Park Planning Board. Chairwoman Kurzak, can you please call this meeting to order?
Yes, this meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the Board Secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before the Board. Fire exits are located on east and west sides of the council chambers as well as the back of the building. I will ask everybody with cell phones or other device to kindly silence your device for the duration of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded by APTV for your viewing pleasure anytime you wish. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. James Bonanno.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
Daniel Shenameo is absent. Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Michael Goonan.
Here.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. All right, we have a very, very full agenda today, so I appreciate everyone being concise, to the point. And let's start with, there's a resolution on here for Asbury Partners, North End Food Truck Court. Is anything on the resolution that anyone has any concerns about?
We just need to add on page 5, item 13, the moving party on the application. The name is just left out.
On 13?
Yeah, last page. The next last page, I'm sorry.
Does that move the resolution tonight?
Yes.
Yes, it's for the resolution.
Yeah, obviously what they had that.
Yes.
Okay.
Offered by, yes.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All right, we got an approval in a second.
Okay.
Okay?
The members that are eligible to vote are Councilwoman Clayton.
Yes.
James Bonanno.
Yes.
Jim Henry.
Yes.
Jennifer Souter.
Yes.
Eric Gallipo.
Yes.
Michael Goonan.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Yes. Next item up is shared equities, Monroe Avenue Realty for Asbury Park, 1012 Asbury Avenue. This is a continuation from June 26th.
For the record, Mayor Moore has viewed the video, so he will certify to the fact that he did so.
Andrew Karras, the firm Fox Rothschild, on behalf of Appleton Shared Equities LLC. Briefly, as the board may recall, we presented most of the application at the last hearing on this matter. We're finishing up with some testimony by our architect, but I believe that we pretty much covered just about everything. I know a lot of the items in the reports that are provided were covered with the direct testimony. I really don't think there's much more to cover in those reports. If I may continue.
Yeah, I thought that we were still working on some of the answers on the CCH report, or am I wrong?
I think we covered, no, we haven't. Basically, the testimony covered all that information from the reports. There's only one item I really need to address, or actually 2 items I need to address. But that's really the extent of it.
Okay, and also for insight?
It's not relevant.
Is that, you okay?
Was there
Doug?
still stormwater management?
That'll be the engineer, will bring that back.
Okay, so we still have a couple of items for CCH and stormwater management. Okay,
All right?
go ahead.
If I believe my witness already has been sworn in.
Yes, he was. You understand that you're still on the road?
Yes.
Alex, there are a few items I just want to cover with you to conclude your testimony. One having to do with the front entrance. A comment was brought up in the previous hearing with regard to that. Can you address that?
Correct. At our last hearing, we discussed the approaches to the front porches that front the community facility space, which you can see up on the screen. Those community facility spaces are in orange. The request was to consider a modification to the sidewalk entries that run from the main sidewalk into the into the community facility space. Those are currently just over 5 feet. We've reviewed with our civil engineer, and we can enlarge those to 6 feet so that there is a larger sidewalk headed to the porch. The reason that we can't move those entries around is because, as you can see, they're located opposite side of the community facility space from where the stairs are located. So if we were to start flipping those around, you'd end up with a conflict where those would be in front of the future stairs that connect those community facility spaces or live workspaces to the units above.
Now, in addition, as you approach on the sidewalk, there's a boardwalk, am I correct?
Correct.
Why don't you explain how that works?
So as you approach from the sidewalk, you walk from the main sidewalk out at Asbury Avenue up to what we're calling the porch, which fronts 3 to 4 community facility spaces in each grouping. So there's, for example, this grouping here is a singular porch that has 4 different entries to it, one at each one at each community facility space, and then one ramp at the end, all that serve those spaces. And you can see that in addition on the rendering on sheet A002. So that's, each one of these is a porch.
So it's not as though the sidewalk entrances are just limited to the front entrance of any particular retail space. It goes onto this porch.
Correct.
And it provides common access, am I correct?
Yes.
The suggestion was not to move the entrances to the community facility spaces. It was to gang up this and this into one entry that would serve all 3.
But as you indicate in your testimony, that would conflict by doing that with those stairs, am I correct?
If we moved, depending on where we move those doors, yes, they would conflict with those.
No, not the doors, not the doors.
The doors stay exactly where they are.
Sidewalk.
Right, but what we
This
were,
sidewalk and this sidewalk would move together to form one broad sidewalk that serves all 3 community facilities.
right, so
That's all.
what we were trying to do is keep those sidewalks in line with the entries to the spaces so that the front entry door and the signage for those spaces was immediately visible and accessible from the main sidewalk.
Right, but that wasn't what was requested.
Understand?
Okay, so-
I believe that you would still be able to see that. I just think that you should, with the potential up and down traffic, I just think like a small, these look like they're sized for residential entrances, not commercial spaces or community facility spaces that might have high volumes of traffic.
But you've agreed to extend or to widen it to 6 feet, am I correct?
Correct, we can enlarge each one to 6 feet.
Going out to the second floor,
Hang on. And I don't know if this may be the landscape architect. Do we need to re-swear me, or I'm still sworn, or whatever?
No, we'll swear you in because it's a new meeting. You both understand for the evening that you're sworn and you testify to the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
So the other request was that those planting beds wouldn't be so angular, that we'd put a radius on them because they were stones or something as ground
Yeah, we
cover.
agree.
Okay,
Yes.
so, all right.
Going now to the second floor.
So this is a modified version of A101, the drawing that was submitted with the package. The second floor included originally 7,000 square feet of green roof space.
Before you start testifying.
Yes.
Has this been submitted in advance?
No, we're going to mark that. And that was as a result of certain stormwater revisions that are being made that we had to make this modification.
All right, so it looks like we're at A5.
So this will be A5 for identification. What is the date of this modification?
7/17/2023. There's no modification to the interior of the building at all or the exterior of the building besides the roof area. So what we had originally included was 7,000 square feet of green roof area on the second floor. That was intended to solve for the stormwater management system as designed by the civil engineer. As requested at our last hearing, we were requested to install a vault or other stormwater detention means on site, which our civil engineer has designed. And as a result, we've been able to reduce the green roof area and increase the outdoor private terrace area. So this reduces the green roof area from 7,000 to 1,000, but in doing so increases the private terrace area on the second floor. And our civil engineer will talk more about the specifics of the new stormwater design as requested at the last hearing.
Oh, that's disappointing. I was hoping that was not going to be the case, that it would be one or the other. Like that, I was hoping.
We just can't do both.
Can't do a green.
It's not feasible.
Why?
Because we're doing a 55 or 40 to 55% affordable. And the dollars already are extremely tough. And this building is dependent on government programs and also tax credits. To do a green roof is extremely, extremely expensive. Because we're going to be revising to meet the stormwater requirements, the additional cost is going to go into that to meet those requirements, so the cost is going to have to come from somewhere. Unfortunately, it's the nature of a project like this. It's very tight, very expensive. In order to meet those regulations, stormwater, we're going to be decreasing them at green roof area. We're going to keep some, but alternatively, we're going to be providing terraces for those people on the second floor.
But it was an extensive green roof, right?
What's that?
It was
Yeah,
an extensive green
yeah,
roof?
Yeah.
Why was the cost so high? Extensive is not usually an
The tray system still is, for those that don't know, the extensive system is the type that is a tray rather than full depth soil that you can plant trees and things in. But the cost of what we're trying to do is offset the cost of the increased stormwater system, the vault that would go below the slab with reduction to the green roof, also by allowing us to increase the outdoor residential terraces, which we believe to be an amenity for the tenants. We did locate the green roof at the ends of the building so that it can remain conspicuous at the view shed from the left or right or east or west sides of the building.
Just for us, I did not realize that one was going to be expensive than the other at the last meeting. It's just because I was so happy to finally see like a decent sized green
I'm a
roof.
huge fan of green roofs, but, you know, when you're talking about a project like this, that is extremely difficult to get done. Unfortunately, the nature of it, we have to look to where we're putting funds, expenses, or its best expenditures. And in order to comply with the stormwater regulations, we're going to have to go with that and be able to, unfortunately, reduce that green roof. But in a sense, what we're gaining are those terraces for the tenants on the second floor.
Anything else?
That's all testimony I have.
Any other questions from the planning board members?
Yeah, just, you mentioned in your discussion here that the amount of affordable housing. Can you give us a breakdown as to the price ranges on the affordable
It
housing?
meets the UHAC requirements.
I'm sorry?
It meets the UHAC requirements.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I can't say what they are.
Do you know how many low income, very low income?
Yeah, I believe we had provided previously the testimony on that broke it down. I think it was in-
I don't recall.
No, we didn't get that far. We're still on engineering.
To understand, they have to meet the UHAP requirements.
I understand that, but I'm
There's
just
a minimum.
trying to get a breakdown of how many units are going to be in the moderate, how many are going to be in the very low, how many in the low, just,
I know more than 20% can't be one bedrooms, can be up to a max of 20%. And then I believe your,
At least 13% of the mod have to be, or the low have to be affordable to very low income.
correct.
And those income ratios are established for
Yeah.
the region,
understand.
Regional.
Yeah.
which includes most of Nottingham.
Okay, so you're saying that you're going to follow the,
We have to.
well, as a minimum, yes. But you could provide more.
No, we'll comply with UHAP requirements. That's
Okay.
what we're obligated to do.
And my client just confirmed that of the 55 affordable units that are provided in the project, 40 of them comply with UHAC, which is 30, 50, or 30, 60, or 30, 50, and 60% of AMI, and then 15% of the units are 80% AMI.
Okay.
Is it 55 or 40 and 40 and 15% workforce?
Correct. There's
Yeah.
55
So
total.
it's not 55 affordable, it's 40% affordable, another 15% workforce.
I think that's accurate. That's accurate.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And under the redevelopment plan, it provides for a minimum of 40% affordable, so we're doing the 40 and the 15.
Any other questions from the planning board members? Any other questions from our professionals? Any questions from the public for anything that was testified just now by this witness? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, I'll be calling up my engineer, back in the office. The board may recall she had testified previously, we're just going to limit the testimony to the instances of
Arthur, yeah.
Ms. Galvin, you understand that you're still under oath?
Yes.
Daphne, you put up on the screen a plan for the first floor garage, am I correct?
That's correct. This is actually the exhibit that I had presented at the last hearing, and it's been modified to emphasize one of the items we're going to discuss.
What we're going to do is modified plan, we're going to mark as A6 for identification.
Yeah, it's dated July 17, 2023, and it's a minor modification to the exhibit that was presented back on June 26th. The red rectangular area, which I'll talk about in a second, is where we're proposing the subsurface detention system for the stormwater management.
Okay, and please go into just briefly how that impacts on the overall stormwater management system for the site.
Well,
Sure.
and also one other thing that I'd like to also, just for everyone's edification or bring us back to where we started, where were we last time and where are we now?
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine, sure. So in the initial presentation, I described that we were utilizing the 7,000 square foot green roof for the stormwater management system. That system allowed us to provide for a green infrastructure approach to the stormwater, but it didn't provide for the rate reductions that are required by the ordinance. So we had actually requested an exception to the standard because we couldn't meet the rate reductions. At the last hearing, Insight had suggested that we consider installing a subsurface tank under the garage slab to see if we could then meet the reductions that are required. So what we did was we sized the tank. It's approximately 200 feet long, 20 feet wide, and just 1.5 feet deep. So it's relatively shallow, such that we can meet the reductions. And by still having the green roof, we no longer require any kind of exception from the stormwater ordinance requirements.
So how does it working?
How does it work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the process? Sorry.
Sure, that's fine. So the runoff from all of the roof area, including the green roof, is then piped into the underground detention system. The underground detention system has an outlet structure on it that controls the discharge rate. And then it's piped into the existing county system out at the intersection of Asbury Avenue and Langford. And that allows us, by throttling it back, it allows us to meet the reductions that are required in the ordinance.
And it's design flood standard, like what's the storm it's designed
It's
for?
designed for, well, there's different reductions for different storms.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it meets the different reductions, the various reductions.
Thank you.
Good with that?
Yeah, just so the board's aware, we did work with Daphne's office. She presented the same option to us. At that time, it seemed like there was maybe going to be a choice, either no green roof with stormwater, but it seems like you guys were able to work it out, and there still is a green roof, albeit it's smaller. But, so the green roof is still there, so the GI, green infrastructure requirement is satisfied. They don't need a waiver from that. And the engineering reductions will be met, provided she provides the calculations and requirements.
Do we-
And that eliminates the exception, correct?
Right.
Right,
Yes, it
but
does.
do we still need a variance or an exception for impervious?
No,
Impervious surface?
No, there was never a waiver or any kind
You
of
were
deviation
meeting the
required for
requirements.
impervious.
Fully compliant.
We're fully compliant,
Okay, so it
except
was
for the
just for
reductions.
stormwater. Okay.
So we now have eliminated that. Okay.
Next, in terms of lighting.
Sure. Question came up from Donna's office about a week ago regarding the proposed lighting design. So in the previous presentation, I had indicated that the lighting along Asbury Avenue was going to remain as is, and that we were installing, I'll call it soffit lights, along the first floor over that porch area that Alex just described. So that allows the entryways to be lit for safety and security of people using those areas. Donna had discussed with me a couple of things. One was there are some on the existing light poles that are out along Asbury Avenue. There's 5. Yep, there are 5. Hold on. Yeah. Yep, sorry. Okay, so along Asbury Avenue, there are 5 light poles. And 3 of those light poles already have existing Cobra head fixtures on them. And several of the light poles also have floodlights, which are directed into the existing automotive repair facility. And there was a concern about the appearance of those floodlights and just the way they function. And Donna wanted us to remove those, asked us if we could remove those, and also to evaluate the lighting within the right-of-way area across the entire frontage. I had actually agreed to do that at the last hearing, but now what we'll do is we'll take those floodlights out also. They're really not appropriate for this type of facility anymore. And then we may have to look at trying to supplement the lighting within the right-of-way so that we can meet the minimum lighting levels that are appropriate for this site. There's different options that we'll look at when we get to that point. We may look to supplement with additional Cobra fixtures on poles that don't already have Cobra fixtures. We may look at modifying the proposed lighting at the building. So we haven't looked at those options yet. So we'll look into that once we evaluate whether or not the existing lighting provides adequate lighting levels. Existing and proposed lighting, I'm sorry, because of the...
Watching the tape, I knew the lighting was a question, and any floodlights throughout the city were requested by the city. So it's not JCP&L's decision, it's the city's decision. If they got to be removed, they can be removed, and the city saves a couple bucks because we're paying for those. So be it, they were probably put there in the 1960s when the Hess gas station was there, had a request by the president, that former mayor and council, so they can be removed with no problem. I know that being with DPW, we asked for floodlights to be put downtown, and JCP&L says, sure, pay us and pay us a monthly fee. So there's no problem removing floodlights as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's possible to convert them to a pedestrian lighting that may add to the sidewalk lighting rather than just removing them altogether. If it's there and we pay for them, and there's some opportunity to have right-of-way lighting directed towards the sidewalk and down,
That's the county though. It's a county right away.
That has nothing to do with, we have the lights, and if we can replace the floodlights with something that's just a small pedestrian scale lighting for the sidewalk.
We're going to look at different options to make sure that the lighting is adequate along the frontage there. We're not ready to commit to any specific type of solution at this point. We will look at different options. And also, it does bring the county in. It's understood that we have to provide adequate lighting levels, but it's also a county road.
I'm trying to get us to something better than just enough. Like, it seems like pedestrian lighting would brighten the environment, and if it's properly focused, would illuminate the sidewalk rather than just the vehicular right-of-way.
No, the intent, we have to light the sidewalks. It's not just for the roadway. So it's understood that we've got to provide adequate lighting on the sidewalks all the way up to the building.
Fixtures can go backward towards
Correct.
the building.
Understood.
Yeah, as well as towards the street.
And again, the only problem there is if you do not use a JCP&L fixture, it's on the city for all maintenance and repairs. So JCP&L does have a variety of different fixtures that something could probably definitely fit in there besides the
We'll work to get
codes.
the appropriate.
Right.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
That's it.
All right, any other questions from the members?
I do.
Go.
So going back to the stormwater, so when you first presented this, the rate reductions for on-site, the on-site reduction wasn't enough, but if we included the area in the right-of-way, it was enough, if we had that original green roof. Is that right?
Sort of. So
little
with the original
low.
design, the on-site, we didn't meet the on-site reductions.
Right.
Relative to the project as a whole, or the total area that's being impacted by the project, there's actually an overall reduction in impervious surface when you look at the entire project. If we were able to analyze it like that, and there was the reduction in the proposed condition, we wouldn't have to provide any flow rate reductions on the project, because that's one of the ways to address the volume reductions is to just be less than the existing condition, which we would have been if with less impervious. But you're not allowed to analyze it like that. You have to look at just the
Right,
site.
so because of where the property line is.
Because of where the property line
You asked
is.
for an exception, and we said, well, instead of the exception, we want you to build a vault, but now we lost 6,000 square feet of green roof. So I'm just like questioning amongst us as the board, which option is actually better? Are we better off with a much larger green roof and no vault, or, and grant them the exception, or their current proposal where we lose a ton of green roof, but we have the vault?
Now, keeping in mind, what was worked out was with the engineering department, or your board engineer, to ensure that we had a proper design for the stormwater for the site.
I will say, when it comes to in terms of overall, when you think of stormwater management, you think of, the most impactful is quantity, right? The quantity of runoff. So what they're proposing is a reduction in the quantity. So previously, they were just kind of staying at where it was in the existing condition, but now they are going to be meeting the 50, 75, 80% reductions for the design storms. So from an engineering perspective, we'd much rather see the quantity reduction.
When I heard that it eliminates the need for you to go for the variance, or that makes sense. I wish it wasn't the case, only because you lose the benefit of the other benefits of green roofs, which is not just water, but if we can't, I understand we can't have everything. However, it was really exciting to have like a decent sized green roof in the city as a demonstration, especially on this project, because it's such an amazing project. So we, it is, I think it's, the goal is to not have to have exceptions and variances when you can, so that's what you've done, so.
But we can say that we're disappointed. But we understand.
I guess my point was, I know it's better to not have exceptions, but this is a case where I would rather vote for the exception than have it comply fully. But maybe I'm the only one.
You started to answer a question concerning the storms that you were providing reduction for, but you never finished the answer. You said.
Oh, yeah.
You said this is a multi-faceted situation where
Correct.
you're preparing or you're designing this for different storm periods. What were the storm periods?
It's the 2-year storm, the 10-year storm, and the 100-year storm.
Okay.
And the 2-year storm requires a 50% reduction. The 10-year storm requires a 25% reduction, and the 100-year storm requires a 20% reduction in runoff.
Any other questions from board members? Any questions from our illustrious professionals?
I just have one question. So if the condition is that you have to have a JCP&L fixture, that's okay? For these lights in the right of way?
I prefer not to commit, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if we want to commit to that.
I don't think
I think the
they
concern from the mayor is if it's not a JCP&L fixture, it requires more obligation to
but
the city.
that's sort of, at some point, there's gonna have to be a meeting that's facilitated with the county, between the city and the county, and also my client, in order to work through, obviously, the lighting, the right-of-way, and those issues. Well, we can work through those issues. I think it'd be preferable to have a JCP&L fixture in there. Certainly, if there's one that just doesn't fit for the project, we can work that out with the city in terms of whether or not that's preferable.
Right, but can we say that we just don't want it to be more expensive for the city than it is now?
Correct.
Because the
That's
city's
what
paying a certain amount of money,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it shouldn't be more than that.
Yeah,
Of course, the approval, we have to put what that condition is in the
Right.
approval,
I'm
so
fine
that.
with that.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions from our professionals? No? Any questions from the public for this witness for what was just testified? Okay. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, that
Okay.
concludes my testimony.
All right. Was there anything else on the reports that we had discussed? Is there anything outstanding?
Well, so I do want to clarify, in case anybody's feeling squirmy about it, the affordable set-aside, even though 15 units are workforce housing, those are still affordable units. They're still income restricted. They're going to have restrictions on who can occupy. Yes, it's more than the 80% income for the region. They are still considered affordable housing. They still have income limit restrictions. Not anybody can just, rent them. And I want to clarify, this is a rental product, right?
Correct.
Just see here. What's my other thing? And these are family units. They're not age-restricted, senior, or special
Yeah,
needs.
there's just a correction on that. It's up to 80% income.
You're not going to do over 80%? Okay, even better. So if anybody was nervous about,
80%
rich,
what?
poor people occupying units, we just have testimony that the units are limited to a maximum of 80% of the income limits.
So, I'm not sure what that means.
So affordable housing, right, we say the people that the units are reserved for can't make more than 80% of the median income for our region.
Mhm.
Workforce housing allows greater than 80%. And that was the, what we thought, there were additional units that were going to be the workforce housing.
And is that the 15% or is that?
Yes.
Those are the 15%?
Those were the 15 units, but now we're hearing testimony that, or Andy is advising us that the client is saying, no, all of the units are low mod. There
All
are
right,
no.
we need,
I just want to offer.
To get this right.
clarification on
all right, then we have to swear you in.
that. Yeah, why don't, we're done with
We're
that.
done.
Right, are we
Yeah.
done with
Should we open
our
the-
engineers?
We open to the public though, so.
No, we did open to the public for questions to the engineer, yes.
Correct. All right.
Are there any questions?
I just-
No,
we're gonna
he's-
open it up to the public.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I opened it to the public, I thought.
Oh, you did already?
No, I didn't
And there was
do
no
that.
questions, right?
Anyone in the public would like to question the engineers? No, thank you.
But
Next,
I
all
was still reading my affordable housing thing. Okay.
Do you
right.
swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And if you can state your name for the record and spell your last name as well, please.
Certainly. My name is John Cortell. Last name is Cortell.
So before you open it up,
I am a principal in my own firm, and I am affiliated with L&M Development Partners.
and your relationship to this project.
I am developing the project, and I'm pleased to partner with the City of Asbury Park on this.
What I want to do is just limit your testimony to explain the percentages of affordable for the 40% and the additional 15%, how that works with this project.
We intended to provide for no less than 40% affordable at what are prototypical COA regulations or UHAC regulations, as per the conversation that you all were having. In supplement, we agreed to, as per the redevelopment plan, set aside an additional 15% of the units at 80% of AMI. Those are low and mod income units. They are not necessarily UHAC specific, but they are intended to be deed restricted affordable housing at households of 80% or below, regardless of household size or unit type. The balance of the units would be unrestricted, so the balance of 45% of the units
Be more.
would be market.
Solid question.
So, I'm sorry, clarify that. So 40 units are traditional low mod, UHAC, set aside affordable units.
Yes, and I want to position you and the city to seek qualification for all 55% as satisfaction for COA and UHAC. We are not setting it up so that they are strictly traditionally UHAC compliant, but we are trying to empower the city of Asbury to get recognition for these units as well.
Is that what we understood as the council? Okay. If that's what the council understood,
And that's in accordance with the redevelopment plan, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and again, they're family units, they're rental units.
And the deed restriction is intended to be for a period of time, such that as the market flourishes around, the units will retain their affordability. So they will be.
right, these
they're spread
55%
against
will
the-
always be this. They will
and-
not
and the
change the
spread over
market.
against the market would theoretically
Okay.
increase as the market around it improves.
So they're all deed restricted.
The 55 would be, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And it is our hope that Asbury gets credit for all 55.
And do you have you have administrative agent, or has that already been figured out, or the city?
Actually, since the financing is anticipated to come from HMFA, it was our hope that HMFA's approved leasing and managing agent would function as the administrative agent for the project.
And can you speak a little bit to how the live-work factors into that, the live-work spaces?
It's going to be dependent on who rents the units.
But they can be either affordable units or market units that take advantage of the live-work space?
We were admittedly prioritizing market for those. We did
Okay.
set aside an opportunity for an affordable housing unit to take one of them as well. And we just wanted to, I think as we said from the beginning, our goal here was to recognize that Amazon and COVID are having an effect on retail, and that we want to be flexible and assure that there is a market for the space. And so, in some respects, we want to sort of maximize the flexibility here. And if there is a affordable resident who seeks to have that opportunity, we would and have every intention of providing for that opportunity, whether it's how it will be treated by the regulatory agencies involved is something to be fleshed out.
And then, sort of resident services are going to be available on site regularly?
What do you mean,
Rental
Please keep your
agent,
voice up.
concierge, superintendent, or
Yes, this
any other special services for affordable housing residents?
The expectation is that the property would be managed as if it were a market rate project with, that happens to have a set aside for affordable housing residents. So it will be our expectation that management will preserve all of the residential amenities one would get with the market rate units, and then to the extent there are supportive services required by particular residents, we would want to collaborate with locals to assure that their off-site resources can be accessed by our residents. So we want our management staff to be familiar with not only the people locally who might be resources to help address those services, but also familiar with the services so they can speak to them directly as if they would fit the bill for those residents.
But in terms of on-site, the super-maintained
maybe the next thought in your head is like, are there actually interventions made for those residents who need them? And the answer is not specifically on site.
All right, so there's no management office on site?
No, there will be a management,
Okay, so-
managing leasing office on site, yes.
also
And then
superintendent.
ongoing super living on site, and then, but I think what Andy was trying to speak to is more the ongoing support services that we're not going to try to integrate into the on-site programming, especially when there might be off-site resources.
Okay.
All right, any other questions of this witness by the planning board members? Any other questions from the professionals? Any questions from the public for this witness about what was just testified? Okay,
Thank you so much.
okay.
And with that testimony, that concludes the presentation for this application.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this point, we allow, if anyone, actually, are there any, the public is now allowed to make comment for 3 minutes. If anybody would like to make a comment about this project as a whole, before the board makes a decision, please stand up and come to the microphone. Get a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone? All right, motion.
Second.
All right. Okay, any comments from the planning board that they'd like to state before we put together a conditions of approval?
Well, as a condition of approval, I'd like to somehow ensure that the affordable units get built at the same rate that the market rate units are built. In other words, that the affordable units do not wait till the end of the project to be constructed, that they be
They're
constructed
they're
in one shot.
interspersed throughout the building, so they can't build one without building the other.
Yeah, they can.
It's one building that's being constructed, it's not a phased project.
So nobody will be able to move in until the whole building gets a certificate of occupancy? That's pretty much what you're saying?
The units get the COs and the commentaries, and subsequently get your initial two-step.
So a market rate unit, is it possible for them to get a CO before an affordable? So is it every unit individually?
Probably not. It's right when the building is done.
Yeah, when the building's done, the building's done.
But those are issues that are not planning board issues, they're respected.
I know that we had also discussed about the removal of the stones that we'd already spoken about. We'd spoken about the new stormwater management process, the infamous vault, and the 1,000-foot green roof. We'd spoken about increasing the open spaces, allowing to access to the storefronts or retail fronts, even though we would prefer to have that to be very different. And that's what we're requesting. We requested that to be very different, and that was not complied with.
Well, our proposal is 6 feet.
6 feet as opposed to 5 feet. Not what we requested.
And it comes at the expense of pervious surface when ganging them together would not.
Could put it as a request.
I mean, I think we should look at how that.
It's gotta be, or it's gotta be. It's gotta be, or it's gotta not be for.
Well, from the standpoint of the application is submitted and testified to based upon what the applicant said.
They would have to come back and show it to us otherwise, right?
Right.
Or agree to it, and they haven't done that.
Right.
I wish they would.
We spoke about lighting, about different types of lighting, that you're going to do the lighting that's going to be adequate for sidewalks. You're going to be removing the flood lighting that is there today, which, thank you, because that would not be pretty. And you're going to ensure that you have adequate lighting, and that will come in to our Insight folks, that they will validate that all that is adequate. And we are asking for some, if possible, to be a little bit more than adequate lighting. Pedestrian lighting.
Sidewalk lighting.
Yes, that's what we want, pedestrian sidewalk lighting.
Especially if the fixtures are already facing in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I suppose.
Any other, I know that we had also spoken about the bus shelter, and I think that has something to do with DEP, right? Is that, no, transit, is that true, James?
The county.
The county?
Transit would probably be fine with it, but the county is county right away.
Okay, so this has really nothing to do with the project itself, meaning that it's not like part of resolution compliance?
No,
Okay, but that's what we would like to see if that can happen.
yes.
Okay.
Recommendation to include in their Monmouth County Planning Board application.
Yes, we would like that. Can we put that in the resolution compliance? Okay. Anything else in the resolution compliance that I haven't mentioned? Is there anything else, Mr. Beekman? Besides the normal things that we always put into our resolution compliance?
I was looking through my notes earlier, and I didn't really see anything that jumped out at me that you haven't covered.
The only thing is, if the applicant decides on a fixture that is a JCP now, they will be responsible for all costs of maintenance till.
Mayor, I was going to suggest that if it's not a JCP&L fixture, they would have to get approval from the city as to how that's addressed.
But the city's going to say no.
No, but then the city can say, we're not going to pay for it.
Okay.
It's your responsibility,
Okay.
and that'll be part of the developer's agreement.
Okay.
Okay,
Wheel stops.
all right.
Wheel stops in the garage?
All right, wheel stops in the garage. Anything else? I think that we did the EVs were compliant. EVs were compliant.
I mean, there's some notes in here about Energy Star program, but that was all part of their testimony.
Yep.
So I'll have that
Yes.
in the resolution.
Yes. All right.
Because that's part of the HMA.
You have to.
Have signed off this to get Energy Star, correct?
Yes.
All right, anything else? We good to go? All right, I'd like to, anyone want to make a motion for the approval of this application with the resolution compliance items that we had just mentioned?
So we are going with the 6 feet at least?
At the 6 feet. Unless you want to say it has to be different, then that's what it,
No, if it has to come back.
it would have to come back.
I'll make a motion to approve as all the resolutions.
Second.
James Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton,
Yes.
Eric Gallopo,
Yes.
Jim Henry,
Yes.
Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Jennifer Sauter,
Yes.
Michael Goonan,
Yes.
Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Okay, the next item that's up is Tall Brothers, Asbury Park, Resolution Amendment.
I may Andrew Harris, again from the firm Fox Roach, on behalf of
Just a second, Andrew. Jack is gonna take over.
Just a second, we're having a,
So I can get out of his way.
having a switch of,
Everyone have a good night.
all right, thank you. Additionally, what's going to happen is that I have to recuse myself, so therefore Mr. Henry is going to take over because I live within the 200-foot limit.
Set? Sure. If I may, Andrew Harris, again, from the firm Fox Roach, on behalf of Toll Brothers, Asbury Park, Urban Renewal LLC. I'm sure the board is aware and does recall that you have voted to approve a resolution a little while ago for the project at Block 303, Lot 1, which is on Lake Avenue, 407 Lake Avenue, Toll Brothers. There is a condition within that resolution that provided for certain bump outs for pedestrian safety. It's condition number 31 in the resolution that was approved. However, it's come to our attention that that condition is violative of the 2018 infrastructure agreement that was entered into between the city and Asbury. I'm aware that there's correspondence from the Waterfront Redevelopment Council for the city that had been forwarded to Mr. Serpico explaining why that bump out is not permitted under that infrastructure agreement. In turn, I'm asking that that condition be redacted from the approval of an amended resolution, be adopted, removing that condition.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please.
I had Mr. Garris renotice to excise this condition, which he did. The notices were in proper form, so he certainly has jurisdiction to proceed. I received a letter after inquiry of Redevelopment Council, Mr. Marzini. I received a letter from his office, specifically Joanne Ross, on July 14th of 2023, and as it was characterized by Mr. Karras, that is correct. I'll just read the salient portion of it, so that we understand that the planning board has considered the site plan application for the project and adopted resolution number PB 2022-10 on December 12th, 2022. Planning board approved the application subject to certain conditions, including total design core curb extensions at the entrance driveway on Heck, as well as the exit driveway on Grand, and quote, additional curb extensions for the corner of Lake and Grand Avenues. However, please be advised that such curb extensions, parentheses, or bump outs within the city right of way would comprise infrastructure for which the master developer would be responsible pursuant to the Waterfront Redevelopment Plan, WRP. The amended and restated redevelopment and land disposition agreement between the city and master developer dated October 28, 2002, master developer agreement, or MDA, and SDA is amended. Importantly, the curb extensions are not contemplated by the updated 2018 infrastructure plan, and as such were not included in the project that was presented to and approved by the City Council. Any incorporation of such curb extensions, if acceptable to the mayor and council, agreeable to the master developer, would require an amendment of various documents and agreements, but not limited to 2000 infrastructure component report and the MDA and the SDA. Any questions regarding this matter, please do not hesitate to contact me. Very truly yours, Joanne Ross. I'd like that entered as B1.
B1?
Based on that opinion, the action to excise condition number 1 for the resolution is supported by the current agreements with the city, acting as a development agency, and the master development infrastructure.
From what I understand then, Jack, there are two options, and one of them has just already been eliminated. So that basically, the only thing that, if we want this project to go forward, condition number 31 needs to be removed and the resolution amended to remove it.
Yes.
Basically,
Basically, yes.
I'm curious how other bump outs in the redevelopment area occur. How did the bump outs on Kingsley and 4th and 3rd and 5th, or, yeah, 3rd, 4th, and 5th happen? And how did those agreements come to be put into place to allow them in those spots?
Someone to testify about agreements matter, the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please state your names for the record, spell them, and your affiliation with the board.
Spell them? Donna Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, board planner.
Douglas Cleland, C-L-E-L-L-A-N-D, board engineer.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was just supplementing Eric's question because I have looked at Asbury Avenue, First Avenue, part of 2nd, 4th and 5th have these similar curb extensions as part of those redeveloped blocks. The Vive, the Asbury Hotel, what's the other one? I don't know if it has a name.
Florida.
So it's curious to me. And
Yeah, and I know that in other redevelopment projects, curb extensions have been included on a coming project. Sorry, I'm not gonna remember the name, the one opposite the Ocean Club on the west side of the street. There's, we requested some curb extensions and changes to the curb there. So I'm just curious, like, where were the agreements that allowed those to move forward?
And I'm just going to note that in the amended infrastructure component report, 11.2, it says, future roadway and site improvements should consider the integration of traffic calming devices such as curb bump outs, safe and frequent pedestrian crossings, bike lanes, and safe accessible public transportation facilities.
And I think that, when we look at the waterfront redevelopment plan or any area plan, we should look at it in context of the master plan and other plans that have been done, like the plan for walking and biking, which identify Lake Avenue as an important corridor, which should be calmed to make it the most pedestrian friendly, the most bicycle friendly, the most, this site is going to add a significant number of people, not as many as I think it should, to be clear. But it's bordered on 3 sides by open space, and I think making that environment as inviting to pedestrians seems like everybody would win.
Just for the board's edification, the projects that you mentioned, the Vive, and I believe there's another one, that was before this report, before this agreement was entered into the city and myself.
So it makes it even more curious.
But this is the agreement that was entered into. It's supported by the Waterfront Redevelopment Council that it is violative, this particular project, of that agreement.
It seems like it's going backwards, though.
What's that?
It seems like it's going backwards, though. It doesn't make any sense.
We have an agreement, there's an agreement between ISAR and the city that those bump outs that were included within this project violate. And because of that, unfortunately, we're in the position that we're in, that we can't have those as part of this project.
But the 2018 infrastructure. Oh,
Mike,
sorry.
please.
So I'm sorry, you're saying that the 2018 amendments say that we can't have curb bump outs?
Not for this, it has actually a diagram within that report. When you read through the report, it has in there, reflects within the report, the infrastructure that is to be constructed. On this particular site, when you look at it, it does not include bump outs.
Let me try to hopefully be semi-correct, and I'm sure I'll be corrected. Historically, I'm going to say the master developer wanted to put bump outs throughout the entire, waterfront area. Historically, the council at the time said no, and we limited it to certain blocks. And that was the agreement, and that's why we're here now, just because it's an agreement that was made. You've seen me move when we were talking about the Somerset proposal, like adding that in the future, but again, as the representative of Starfield and said, like, that can be done, but we just can't hold up the project because of bump outs, so that can be done. But, you know, historically, master developer wanted to put in all bump outs. The council, myself included at that time, said no. 5, 6 years later, do I have a different opinion? Yes, but we're stuck with an agreement. And then Andy or your witness can correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree.
Mr. Karas, can you, I'm looking at the whole document. Oh, wait, there's another.
Mike?
The document's over 100 pages, I'm not going to go through it now, but I think it's important.
That agreement goes back before 2018.
But I think the mayor is very correct in his interpretation, as is the Waterfront Redevelopment Council.
If your client wants to speak to you.
If I can, I have counsel for iStar as well as Mr. Kripke. If they can address the issue, I think they can provide clarification on it also. I think it'd be time well spent to hear from Jennifer.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jennifer Phillips Smith, and I am the attorney representing Asbury Partners, which is the master developer. You've heard tonight about the infrastructure component report, and just for clarity, the infrastructure component report is adopted by ordinance. It was last adopted by ordinance in 2018, and it's adopted by ordinance as part of the redevelopment plan. So the position we have taken, and that the city's redevelopment council has agreed with, is that the planning board cannot amend the ordinance. The council and the master redeveloper can work together on talking about that ordinance, but it is an ordinance, and the ordinance doesn't specify bump outs in the locations that were requested by the planning board. This project, you've all approved it, and we hope that it can move forward, but what we're trying to address is the idea that the planning board can request changes to the city right-of-way that weren't previously approved by the city and are not part of the city's ordinance that govern the infrastructure requirements for the waterfront. As the council mentioned, Ms. Voss at the city's redevelopment council, the subsequent developer agreement was approved by the city and did not show these changes to the right-of-way. This was something that was done later by the planning board. So we're requesting that the condition be removed so that the street is left in the condition that it was approved by the council, which was in accordance with the infrastructure component report.
Jack, quick question. Should she be sworn in?
No, she's the counsel representing the client.
Okay.
So just in short, we wanted, if the planning board wanted to encourage the city to get bump outs in these areas, we have to encourage city council to reach out to ISTAR and change an ordinance or adopt an ordinance for those locations as an agreement, correct?
Yes, if there are changes to be made to the infrastructure component report, it has to be done in accordance with adopting an ordinance, and it would have to be in accordance with existing agreements. And we've indicated a willingness to work with the city, but it can't be done on a project-by-project basis by the planning board. It's within the city's jurisdiction to consider changes to the street.
Ms. Smith, do you happen to know how those other bump outs occurred?
So I can ask Mr. Charipka if you'd like to hear testimony on that, but my understanding is that those were all based on those projects at that time and then were approved by the city council.
Correct.
So prior, like as part of the TRC process? So before they went to
I don't know if it was part of the TRC process, but I know that they were approved by the city council is our understanding.
Yeah. Essentially, we're powerless to impose this condition, which is fine. The council is not saying we wouldn't entertain something in the future, but for right now, we can't impose a condition. The conditions for what is in the plan or infrastructure component for this intersection must take precedence.
Could we amend the resolution to just say, leave the condition in?
No.
But if and only if it complies with city ordinance?
It doesn't.
So
We
if,
know it doesn't. We've just heard we've got redevelopment council that said that it doesn't. We've got two attorneys here, one representing the developer, and I have no reason to doubt Mrs. Voss.
oh, no, not me either. The reason I asked to leave it in is if the city and ISTAR do come to some agreement between now and when they actually build this,
Yeah,
No,
but that's
I
the
see a lot
problem,
of
because we have to go
Cart
through
horse.
resolution compliance,
Yeah.
and you don't get
Never
through.
mind, I was trying to be quick.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, but legally, no.
Are there any other areas within the Warren Park development area that would permit a bump out? Is it like this specific area that is
I don't
not
see them
allowed?
anywhere on this plan.
Yeah, I don't believe that they're on the 2018 adopted plan, which is adopted by ordinance. I will tell you, I have not looked at every single block, but I'm not aware of any.
I can tell you from reading through it, unfortunately, I did not see any bump outs.
Yeah, none of these
I believe you
streets
to be
taken
correct.
into account. But there is the provision in the text that says to implement them. So it's a failure of will.
Not a failure of will, you have an ordinance that was enacted that adopted this
Want me to read
infrastructure
the paragraph
plan.
again?
That, again, council or the waterfront redevelopment area agrees, is not allowed for it.
Well, we've imposed a condition which can't be met, and it violates another ordinance of the city. So if we want this project to move forward, I think that provision must be taken out of the conditions and the conditions amended to eliminate it.
I agree. Based on
Well,
representation of everyone that knows the infrastructure situation better than me.
well, hopefully in the future, if the city and the developer can get together and amend their agreement, that would be great, but in this particular case, I don't think time permits it, and I don't think we have any option other than to amend the approval by eliminating condition 31. So can I get a motion?
We have to hear from the,
I'm sorry.
we need to hear from
Could
the
we
public.
take out this condition, but say that if there's any agreement between the city and the master developer, bump outs would be permitted in these locations?
I don't think that would be necessary, because if that should happen, that agreement,
Right, what happens with this project?
they're not locked into it, and that agreement between the two of them can be effectuated without any problem. And I think what we need to do is make this as streamlined as possible. I guess we should open this up to the public.
No, there's no reason to open it up to the public, because it's not an opinionated thing.
Okay.
It's a matter of law. You have an ordinance that we have to enforce. We essentially, unbeknown to us, made a mistake, so we have to correct it.
Can I get a motion to that effect, to eliminate that condition from our prior resolutions?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, John, I'm just pushing out of my way.
I'll motion.
James. Second?
Do we have a second?
Motion by James was made.
I'll second that.
You'll
motion.
second? Got it. Thank you. James Bonanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton?
Yes.
Eric Gallipo? Yes. Jim Henry?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Jennifer Souter?
Yes.
Michael Goonan?
I'll make a motion to vote on this one.
No, you're not.
Not eligible. And then,
No, wait a minute, were you recused for this application?
No, I just wanted to know.
That's fine.
so then Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak is recused, so motion's passed.
So you have 7, and recused 6. Sorry. Okay, well said.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jim,
Barbara?
would you like to call a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we have a motion to take a 5-minute break? Second?
Second? Yep. Barbara?
Yes, second.
Third. Third.
All right, 5 minutes.
And I will now take, go back. I'll now take roll call. James Bonanno.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
Jennifer Souter.
Here.
Michael Boonin.
Here.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. All right, thank you. Our next application is Somerset Asbury Park Renewal, LLC.
Just want to say
They're-
I'm recusing from this.
All right, they're coming back, last time was May 15th.
Yes.
Yes.
One second, just do some housekeeping. Jim, you were absent at that meeting?
That's correct.
Have you reviewed the transcript of the tape?
Not all of it. I only got about 2 hours of it.
So then you can participate, but if it comes to a vote this evening.
I can't vote, I understand.
And if you go to another meeting, you have time, please.
I will finish it, I just ran out of hours.
Thank you. Good evening, Michael Bruno here on behalf of the applicant, the Somerset Asbury Park Urban Renewal. This is a continuation of the site plan application we presented before you at the May 15th, 2023 meeting. We concluded our direct testimony at that meeting, and the board raised a handful of issues and requested that we revise the plans to accommodate those requests, which we've done and resubmitted. You also asked for some additional testimony relating to certain items, the material board, the lighting plan for the night, some revisions to the westerly sections of the buildings and the corners, all of which has been done. So we'd like to quickly present that to you and show you what we've done in response to your concerns and requests. And we have a couple of witnesses this evening. Dave Minnow and Mike Lawson from Minnow and Wasco is here to my right. They'll present the architectural changes that you asked for. Bill Salmon's here also. I don't think any testimony is required. We did revise the site triangle request that you made, and that's been noted by your engineer. But if testimony is required there, he's available. And we brought our construction consultant, Joe Zog, who will provide the logistics plan that is part of the redevelopment agreement that we've negotiated with the city as to how this is going to get constructed. But we'll give you a summary narrative on that because that was an issue that you wanted us to address.
Right, as long as you let us know what the modifications were that we asked for, just to keep it.
Right, we're going to do that right now.
To remind us, because it's been a while.
Yes, we will do that right now, and I'd like to introduce at this time, you've previously been sworn, Dave Minnow with Minnow and Wasco.
Unlike my predecessor, I do require everybody to be re-sworn.
That's fine.
Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about giving this matter is the truth, the whole truth.
I do.
And please state your name for the record. I've known you for many years, but please do that. And you are the architect of record, so we do not have to go through your credentials.
David J. Minnow, M-I-N-N-O.
Thank you.
And Dave, the exhibits that we're going to go through, they were prepared by you under your direction?
Yes.
All right, so why don't we identify the issues that the board wanted us to address and present the revised plans?
The first issue that I'm going to talk about is the night lighting scheme or evening lighting scheme. And we prepared some nice renderings that depict what we're doing on the exterior of the building. This first view is taken looking northeast along 4th Avenue. And the exterior lighting, I'm going to talk about that. The street lighting and the lighting at the amenity areas, Tom Bauer, our landscape architect, is going to discuss.
Jack, you want to have these identified for
Yes.
different
Marie,
purposes?
what are we up to?
I had 21.
These are different than what.
No, I had, excuse me,
Yes,
I had
that's why we have to.
27. I'm up to 27, age
Oh, yeah,
27.
okay. Yes, because we had that, so we're
Right.
at, this will be
This is 828.
828.
Perfect. And what does this depict? Dick?
This depicts an evening view of the building looking northeast along 4th Avenue. And the exterior lighting, the intent for the lighting is for safety of pedestrians and property identification, as well as creating an attractive building without adding any lighting to the dark sky that we want to preserve in Asbury Park. First of all, there's several different types of lighting on the exterior. There's a cove down lighting under the balconies that you can see. And all the lighting I'm going to discuss, no one can see the source. They can't see the actual fixture. What you're seeing is a sort of a hidden cove that bounces a diffused light against the building. so nobody sees the source of the lighting, you just see a warm glow. So underneath the balconies, we have that detail, which is very soft. Indirect downlight to the balcony itself. And then we have cornice strip downlighting at the insets. Yeah, the cornice strip up at the very top. That too is shielded and produces a warm glow right at the very top of the building. Then we have downlights at the insets of the building. So in those little areas where the building cuts back for the unit private outdoor space, we have a downlight in that area. And then we have downlights at the doors, at the entryways on the ground level units. You remember we put front doors along the avenues. And we also have 2 vertical lights at each of those front doors, just like you would have in a normal residence. All the fixtures that we are showing meet with the dark sky compliance and are fully shielded and are downward directed, so there's zero uplighting going on here. The linear LED sources are fully integrated and concealed by architectural details. Again, zero uplight. All fixtures are dimmable and programmable. When we turned in the lighting calculations, they were performed at 100% full bright level of those fixtures. The lighting will never be at that full brightness and will be dimmed for evening setup and at a minimum as required for safety after business hours. So this is a fully controlled, dimmable system, and it'll never be at full power. Let me take a look at another perspective rendering, which would be...
Dave, before you go on, just even at full power, this is compliant with the ordinance.
Yes, the calculations were performed at 100% full, but we're never going to be there, and that is compliant. So the next exhibit, we're at 829. This is a perspective rendering looking west. It's a low aerial view. So you see the 4-story amenity deck in the foreground. You see Ocean Avenue with the retail along the ground level and the 2 residential structures to the rear, and then the view through between them.
And this again depicts the full power that you just described.
This doesn't depict full power. It depicts dimmed power.
Dimmed power.
Yeah. So the calculations were done at full power. So much of the lighting that you see in this exhibit, Tom Bauer, our landscape architect, is going to talk about the horizontal lighting along that 4th floor amenity deck, the street lighting, and anything that's pedestrian oriented, and also the lighting and area in between us and the Wonder Bar. I'd like to move from my part of that architectural lighting on the building to talk about the materials. And this was something that you asked for. And we actually have physical samples here as I run through these. So the first one is in the upper left corner, and this is Exhibit A30, which shows photographs of, I guess, 12 different materials. The first is a textured equitone rib panel. I think it's called Linea for the color. And then we have a smooth finished fiber cement panel, which is the next one to the right on the top. It's labeled number 2. We have a cast stone material. This cast stone, Tom Bauer will be talking about. We're using this down at the lower level, on the street level, where we've made a change in particular on the corner low balcony. And then we have a horizontal wood look fiber cement panel. That's the panel in the upper right-hand corner of this photograph. It is a wood look cementitious panel. And then our glazing, which is the middle panel on the left. This is our architectural glazing, and the mullions will be in white. And then we have number 6, the architectural glazing at the railings. This is actually on the lower level, it's street level, and we're using this glass to give a little more screening for those balcony railings, those glass balcony railings at the lowest street level. And then the one to the right, number 7, is our open glass railings at the upper balconies. That's just a very simple, clean glass railing to provide maximum view for the residents. And then on the middle right-hand side is the white color of the mullions. And then moving down to the lower line, on the lower left, we have the architectural metal sunscreen. And that's a white anodized aluminum. And then we have, to the right of that, we have louvers that are necessary for mechanical equipment, and those will be in brushed aluminum. The architectural metal canopy on the second from the right on the bottom, those canopies will be used to cover entryways, front doors, both to the main entrances to the building, the lobby entrances, and then we have smaller canopies at the townhouse entries on the ground floor. And lastly, on the bottom right, we have architectural garage doors. And these are located on Kingsley Street. And they're a very attractive garage door there. So those are the materials. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about are some very simple parking modifications. So we had, and maybe Michael can point to them, we had a couple of parking spaces right there where he's pointing. And this would be Exhibit A31. Which is our first floor parking plan.
Yeah, can you just
we
explain
had
that if you don't mind, just so we can see it a little better?
Yeah, we can blow it.
Blow that up a little bit.
So we had a couple of parking spaces right at the top of the ramp, and your planner, Clark Hayton and Hintz, identified those as being maybe dangerous and problematic. So we have removed those parking spaces. So in each of those locations, on each of the 3 parking levels, we've removed 2 parking spaces. And then a couple other changes. We've added a handicap space on the left. That was a request, and that gets it very close to the elevator. And we've added 2 additional EV charger spaces in each of the levels. And our total for the building now goes to 264 total parking spaces. So the next plan
Is
is,
it allowed for your EV?
I'm sorry?
Is it allowed for your EV stalls to be the same as the ADA stalls?
Yes.
Can your EV stalls be your ADA parking spaces?
Yes, they're required to provide EV accessible spaces.
Let me get Donna, I'm sorry, it's my fault. Yeah, please raise your right hand, solemnly swear testimony about giving this matter the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Yes. Please state your names for the record and your affiliation with the board.
Donna Miller, Board Planner.
Doug, would you re-answer that question?
Doug Clone, Board Engineer.
I'm sorry. Julie.
So yeah, so they're required to do accessible EV spaces as well as standard EV spaces.
So these are these the EV ready, or are these EV, we're ready to plug in?
They're going to be ready to plug in.
All
We're
right,
going to
so
build
these
them in. Yeah, we're not going to wait. We have, the state allows you to take some time to do that. We're going to do it from the get-go.
Thank you.
The next 2 parking plans, they're repetitive to what I just showed you. They're the second level. I guess this would be A32. And this shows, again, those same changes, the removal of 2 spaces at the ramp, the adding of 2 EV spaces, and the adding of a handicap space. And then the next plan, and it's the last one, is, or was that it? Okay. Okay, there were 3 parking plans. This is the 3rd level, and the same changes are reflected there. That would be A33 in the exhibits. So same changes on all 3 levels of the parking plan. And that's really all I had to share with you, is sort of cleanup from our May meeting. And Tom Bauer is going to present the other portion of the lighting and landscape plan.
All right, so we're still within the limits of how many spaces you're required to give?
We are.
You have over 30 some odd spaces extra?
Yes,
And you have the 10 for the Wonder Bar?
that's correct.
Okay. Great.
All right, let me introduce Tom Bauer.
Let me see if any members of the board have any additional questions for Mr. Mayor.
Anyone?
He's going to be here. Tom's testimony is going to supplement, so I think with both testimony, then the questions would be.
All right, well, how about the public?
Just a second, we have anything else from the professionals? for now? No? Public? Anyone? Any questions for the witness? Okay,
Great, thanks.
next.
Here's your right hand. Swear testimony about to give this matter with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record
Thomas Bauer, B-A-U-E-R,
and your affiliation with the applicant.
a landscape architect from Melillo Bauer, Carmen.
Okay, you do not need to restate your qualifications.
Thank you.
Tom, your office worked on some revisions to the plan, so why don't we identify those, have them marked, and then you can testify as to what the changes were in
Sure.
response to the comments that we heard.
Sure. What exhibit are we up to?
This would be 834.
Okay, 834 is a plan view. The issue that was raised by Mr. Sullivan last time was I believe Mr. Sullivan, or maybe one of the board members, was the lack of privacy on the two corner patios on the western side, both the southwest and northwest portion. As you can see, that graphic is a revised plan where we have moved the patio back 2 feet from the Kingsley sidewalk to provide planting in that area as a planted buffer. We've also raised the wall. Mr. Meno showed you a cast stone wall material. I'll show you a rendering of this in a moment. That we've elevated that a foot above the patio for a little bit of additional privacy. And we've also added the fritted glass sample that you saw, which is much more, provides more privacy for the resident on his patio. So, here is a section taken through that wall. You can see the
835.
835 shows the Kingsley sidewalk to the left, the cast stone wall elevated above the patio level, and then above that is the fritted glass screen wall. So we feel that in combination with the planted 24-inch planter provides nice privacy for the resident. So you can see here the difference. If you recall the previous plan, this is much more private for the resident, again, on both corners of the property.
This is 836, and this is a rendering of these corners that we're talking about.
That's correct. It's a rendered version of the corner. This one is at the 4th Avenue and Kingsley.
Well, you just on this one identify the features that you just noted that provide the response.
If Michael will point to the 24-inch wide planter area, what we're showing is an ornamental grass called a calamagrostis, which grows up to about 4 or 5 feet at maturity. You can see the cast stone wall that is continuous around the patio. Again, it's elevated 12 inches above the patio level for additional privacy. And then above that is the fritted glass panel. Previously, it was a clear glass. Now it's a fritted glass for more privacy. So I think that adequately solves the privacy issue.
Yeah, and before we move from this exhibit, one of the other questions that we heard was the change of the street tree specimen as well as the ground cover for the public areas. Could
Correct.
you just identify that while we have.
Yeah, in conversation with Mr. Sullivan, we agreed to go with a crepe myrtle tree, which should do very well in this area, as opposed to the Kwanzaa cherry that we had previously specified. And the ground cover will be an English ivy. Okay. The second issue that was raised is the area adjacent to the Wonder Bar. As you can see, Michael, if you can point out, the top portion of the building has a generator room, a transformer room, and an electrical meter room in that location. The balance of it is opposite the retail area. And what we're proposing to do is provide 2 different levels of screening through basically a fence, if you will. We've indicated as a laser cut metal panel screen. Adjacent to the mechanical area, we have an 8-foot-high screen wall. And adjacent to the retail area is simply a 3-foot-high screen wall in that location with planting below it. These are 2 sections. This is a section through the retail area to the left. You can see the patio, which will be furnished. Wonder Bar would be to the right of this section, and that's simply a 3-foot-high wall. Beyond that, where the electrical meters are, or transformer and generator room, that is an 8-foot-high screen wall. And then that screen wall basically will be a laser cut panel.
So
these are 2 examples.
So we have, 837 was the Wonder Bar detail. 838 was the section that you just described.
Okay.
And now we're up to 839.
There are 2 sections, so 839 is the second section, and then 840 would be this graphic. They're just examples of laser cut panel. If you would refer to perhaps these patterns slotted at the bottom, you can see what the type of laser cut panel might look like. That's the intention.
And where would that be again?
That's again, if you go back to the plan, Michael. Laser cut panel would be right along the property line adjacent to the Wonder Bar. If you go back 2 more, there you go. So Wonder Bar is to the right.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the outdoor Wonder Bar area to the left of that. And then the property, our retail center and mechanical room is adjacent to that. Ocean Avenue is to the bottom of this plan.
Can you indicate where the 3-foot panels are and where the 8-foot
Sure.
panels are?
Those, right there, Michael's referring to the first 2 sections of that are 3-foot panels. The next 3 sections are 8 feet. Yeah, and you can see the 3 mechanical rooms. The top room is generator, then there's a transformer room and an electrical room.
And then in between is that a walkway, or is that?
That's paved area.
That's a walkway
That's a walkway.
into the building?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
What is the limit for a property line fence? Isn't it 6 feet? No, I'm just curious, what's driving the 8 feet versus 6? Because you're just trying to, like, are there louvers you're trying to mask? What are you trying to protect between?
It's just, again, the view of the mechanical building portion of the building.
Well, we have I don't know.
Yeah,
if that's
it's a
ordinance
6 foot
might not
maximum.
apply to the waterfront.
If you prefer 6 foot maximum, we'll be glad to adhere to that.
Do we have anything that shows us what the facade treatment is over there? Like, are there louvers? Are they just doors? Are they?
They are
Doors?
louvered. Yeah, I think that, did Mr. Minow refer to that? Yes, the louvered panel that you saw from Mr. Minow will be along that area.
So I'm still not clear, do we need the 8 foot, or, I'm not sure if we're going against any ordinance
He
that,
said they'll do 6 if we want.
We're happy to go to 6 feet.
then, is that what you're?
Well, I think we want to know if 8 might be necessary because
Right.
of what's going on there.
That's my
Yeah,
if you're just trying to create a greater level of privacy.
Sure, it's just an aesthetic offering, really.
But if you need
Tom,
that
your
8
opinion?
feet to cover up some
6
sort
to
of.
8, what's your opinion? Yeah.
If 6 is the ordinance, let's stay with the 6, and then there's no issues.
Oh, then that's fine, let's go with 6, because I'm
Sure.
just not sure if 8 will flag something.
We don't want to flag anything.
No,
No, we're not into flagging.
No.
No. 6 is fine.
you don't want to come back to us?
No, we don't want to come back, no. As much as we love being here.
Okay.
Okay, and then I think we have one more exhibit, which was Michael finds it, we're going to talk a little bit about lighting. Dave indicated that we had this exhibit number what, Mike?
Which one? do you
Are we
want
41?
to do?
The lighting exhibit? We're talking about lighting at the Wonder Bar, at the property line?
I don't think we've introduced this one yet.
We have not.
So
It's a new
we're at
exhibit.
41.
41. Dave indicated that we have modified the lighting plan, and then this is the result of it. You can see this is a point by point. Mike, if you can zoom in a little bit, it's hard to see the point levels. But the ordinance calls for a 0.1 maximum at the property line, and we are in keeping with that now with this modified plan. So that's
Consistent with Dave's testimony that it's compliant with the ordinance.
That's correct. It is compliant with the ordinance now.
Even with the full brightness, and not
That-
the dim.
That's right. That's
Can you
right.
clarify what is the date of the revision of this plan? Is it different than?
If this
what we
plan will be
reviewed?
submitted, is it today's date, Mike? Yes, we'll say today's date, and it will be resubmitted. And then last, I might want to remind you again, we testified last time that the street lighting standards are in keeping with the Asbury standards. Today, there are no light standards on Ocean Avenue. There will be, and consistent with the other Ocean Avenue standards. The same is true on 4th Avenue. There are no standards there today, but there will be. On 5th Avenue, there are some standards. They will remain or be improved, replaced perhaps during construction. And then Kingsley as well has a different kind of light standard that will be consistent with the balance of Kingsley Avenue. So again, our street light standards are in keeping with the ordinance. And that completes my testimony.
Okay, so, and did you also adjust the light levels on the avenue sides? So-
Light, everything is compliant now, Donna, yes, yes, right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Some of the fixtures, are they all full cutoff?
They are, definitely, yes, all full cutoff. All dark sky compliant.
Okay, so did we change any of them? Because the cover, which sheet is this? Note. There's a note on this photometric, the previous version of the photometric that says it's only 85% full cutoff. Where is it? Note C, all exterior lighting shall be 85 degrees full cutoff that direct light downward without any off-site glare. So if one of you can speak to that note?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Don, but these streetlights are the Asbury Park standard streetlight.
Yeah,
You're referring to streetlights, or are you talking about building?
I don't think it's streetlights. I think it's some other site lighting in the electrical and lighting general note plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure what light you're referring to, but all of the lights, as Dave Minow testified, they will be all downlight cutoff, no dark
It might be an
sky.
erroneous note. There's something here about not being lighting on the delineated wetlands or wildlife habitat.
Type F, Ocean Avenue, page 106. Says 45-degree cutoff, brass glare shield, quick margin. Type F. Gobo accent light unit, moonlight for walkway. Or for
Yeah, we might just need to clean up a couple of details on some of the fixture details and the notes in the photometric plan. Because there are a couple of references that suggest that might not be fully.
We will revise those. Those details are prepared by our lighting consultant. With the resubmission, we'll revise those and make sure that they are in compliant. Yeah,
The intent is to be fully compliant.
correct.
I'll make a, I have a note to talk to Donna.
Okay.
I have a tree comment again. I'm really happy that the cherries are gone. I know, and in particular, because I know that it was referenced the property to the south, how their cherries are, but they do not do well. But then I know that our planner suggested the crepe myrtle, but I thought crepe myrtle was not very salt tolerant, so I was just worried about that in that location. I mean, I realized that was coming from our own.
Yeah,
Are you asking Donna?
And Tom came to that agreement.
Yeah.
I just bring it up because I know it's a really hard.
It's going to be very.
It's a really hard site for plants to survive, and I assume that's,
Yeah, as I think I've mentioned before to the board, it's almost impossible to grow trees in this area. That's why there are none on Ocean Avenue, because they just don't do well at all. We've had very poor experience with trees on the side streets. None of them have really done very well. The cherries have done probably as well as any. The London plane trees, which are in the ordinance, don't do well at all. I know through us, we've replaced many London plane trees throughout the town. It's a very, very difficult environment.
Properly either for the spec. I mean, you can walk down the street and see the bindings still on them.
Well, so in terms of the one, and it's a different project, it's only bringing up because it was referenced in our last testimony that the Ocean Club cherries, I mean, I just happen to go there several times a day, so I see, I've seen them decline, I see how hard, they just don't survive, but I don't know how, I wasn't there when they were installed, so I don't know. It could be other things other than the species, but either way, I don't think cherries would do well in coastal environment. Crepe myrtles, I also don't think would do well, but I don't.
Unfortunately, once we get out of this forum, it's, the city and the property manager, property owner is going to be interacting on replacement species. We can make this recommendation, we can make other recommendations. Honestly, I think there are, shade type trees. We've talked about it before, the American sycamore, the hackberry that the mayor recommended on Wesley. Those have the salt tolerance, but if they don't get planted properly, they're not going to thrive. So, we need a little more performance, I think, on the other end of it. I know you guys are trying to make recommendations and seeking the best input on what plant materials. Unfortunately, once we get to install is where we need
Agreed,
to.
but if we're starting from a point that we know species isn't salt tolerant, that doesn't make any sense.
So which species would you suggest?
I don't have a good suggestion for that site.
Then here we go, then we're with crepe myrtles.
Well, I mean, they're over on Lake Avenue, they're actually surviving against, poor planting methods and bindings, but it's not really salt there, I know.
Yeah, Lake Avenue is a lot different than this area. Yeah, quite different. One block makes a huge difference. I'll take one single block. It's a very tough
I
block.
would also note that this is a bonded item, so.
They're going to keep replacing them?
We want to install it properly, so we're not replacing every year.
Right, but that would be between our.
Not us, we don't do the landscape inspections, I wish we did.
But you make the suggestion as to what's the best,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys came up with.
Sullivan agreed to the crepe myrtles.
Okay.
Yes.
And if Jen comes up with something better, I think Michael would go in with that. Right?
Yeah, I'm not making a tree suggestion for that.
So we're going with the Sullivan crepe myrtle. Right, there you go.
All right, we're gonna go with that.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
And that completes my testimony,
That
yes.
completes Mr. Bauer. We do have, like I noted earlier, we did revise the site triangle as requested by the engineer for the entrance. So that's complete. I don't think we need to have any direct testimony on that. That's been satisfied. And we do have a logistics plan we want to present to you Again, this was approved and vetted through the city as part of the redevelopment agreement. There's a whole plan that's attached with the restrictions and requirements, but we're happy to present it to you also.
That'd be great. I know that there was one thing that I see here, that there was a lack of a street address on the principal building. So
We'll fix that too.
where would that be?
We're gonna have to work with, obviously these will be condominiums, we'll work with your whatever department handles that, I don't know if it's the post office or emergency services or whoever is gonna handle that, we'll work with them to address that comment that you raised.
So there should be, it's within a certain size that we require for people to even know what building that is.
Correct.
Never mind each individual.
Correct.
Okay, so we're gonna put that into the,
Yeah, and whatever.
into the compliance
Right.
items. We're gonna add that.
We'll be compliant, yeah.
Because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Doug, very quickly, site triangle has been approved by your office, the revision?
Yeah, we didn't take an issue with what they're proposing. It's very similar in nature to the AOC.
That's fine. We're good?
So, I'm sorry, let me just back up on the sign. So you guys are gonna do a sign package that's compliant with the sign regs?
Correct.
Okay.
And here also we mentioned, maybe I missed it because maybe it's just the way that it's stated here. It says it's provide detail of the garden wall. Now, which garden wall, or I mean, where is this garden?
I believe that was the wall that was adjacent to the Wonder Bar. That was referred to as a garden wall.
To the Wonder Bar?
Yes.
That's the one?
That's the one.
Okay. Now, there's also, I remember seeing a mural on one of these. Is the mural still in play here?
Yes.
Okay, so that has to be another thing, Jack, to make sure that we speak to the Arts Council or Arts, Public Art Commission, that we get the okay on what it is.
Is the garden wall basically the same as the,
No.
No, it's different.
Okay.
That's different. The mural is different.
not the mural, the garden wall?
Oh, the garden wall,
The garden wall is the laser cut metal panel next to the Wonder
that's the
Bar.
garden wall.
Is there a,
Get a
okay,
picture of
so
that.
there's no actual, like a planter or anything it sits in? It's
There's
just a
ground
wall?
level planting.
Okay.
Yes. Thus the garden. Yeah.
Yeah, put that perspective back up. There it is.
There's the mural.
Okay. All right, I know that we've also, before we get to the staging, I know that we'd also spoken about, stormwater. Was there any additional, was there some tweaking that you were going to be doing so that it doesn't impact the Wonder Bar? Or am I making this up? There was something about stormwater in Wonder Bar
There was.
in May. Hey, there you go.
Reviewed, so Jason was here last time, I reviewed his notes, and my understanding is that their engineer agreed to work with our office on addressing
Reduce it, fix that.
all of our comments, yes.
Okay, all right, so we're good with that. One other item that I seem to remember also is that there was a discussion about, you'd sent a letter to the Wonder Bar because there's a rejiggering of how the Wonder Bar Yappy Hour area is. You sent a letter to them and suggested that you would help or assist, or I don't know if it was I started assisting, somebody was assisting somebody to be able to get to be able to make sure that the Yappy Hour goes in the right direction, and you would help them move that space because it's being reconfigured. And you sent a letter, but you haven't received a
Yes, the Asbury
response back in
Partners.
May.
Asbury Partners testified to that.
Okay, all right,
I don't
so,
have anything, they're here tonight if they have an update, but we don't have anything. That's not our property, the Wonder Bar property.
okay, so I don't know how we do that, because it's not really part of this, but it is kind of part of it.
It is part of it.
Because we're reconfiguring
Subdividing it.
the Wonder Bar is getting reconfigured.
Yeah.
The Happy Hour area is being reconfigured. And I guess that inquiring minds want to know if they responded and that ISTAR is going to help them.
So, and leading into, or supplementing or jumping off on that, did we have testimony last time about the subdivision?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't here.
That's where it kind of.
Didn't watch the TV show. Was there any testimony about the easement? Yeah.
Which easement?
The existing easement
About what?
that runs, the existing easement on the Wonder Bar property that connects to the site? Was there anything about that? It's in our report.
I don't know, I don't recall anything about an easement.
So there's an existing access easement across the rear of the Wonder Bar property. Since you're changing the lot line location, do you still need that easement to connect out to Fifth? Or can we extinguish the easement?
I think we were okay with that recommendation.
I don't know if you need it because if you need access to your mechanical rooms, you might need to extend the easement.
So I'm hearing we might need it for mechanical access? Right.
So you might actually need to extend the easement. Keep the existing extended.
All right, so we're not going to remove the easement, we're going to keep the easement, so there's no change.
Well, there's a change that they have to put an easement on that piece of the property that's
On our property.
subdivided
expanded,
off,
so it-
yeah.
Okay, so that's a
it
recommendation.
connects.
That has to be, because I didn't see that anywhere. So I guess that,
It's in the review letter that there's about the existing access easement. Our intent is to leave that in place and expand it with the additional footage that we're providing.
okay.
And was there testimony about the mechanicals of the event space? Is there any,
When you say event space?
in the ground floor on the Ocean Avenue frontage, there's event space and retail?
Yeah, we would call it visual space.
Okay. Are there any, is there any idea that there could be a kitchen or restaurant type use in there?
Yes.
And where is that exhausted? Because there's a condition in the waterfront redevelopment plan about where that can be exhausted.
You want to get sworn or want Dave to come up? Dave,
Oh, we're gonna blindside Dave.
we have a question about the exhaust ventilation for the proposed restaurant on the Ocean Avenue side, how that's going to be.
Yeah.
Dave Minnow again for the record.
Again, we haven't done construction drawings yet, and we haven't worked with the MEP engineer, but it'll either be through the roof or through the side toward the Wonder Bar, through the sidewall.
Okay, so there's a provision in the waterfront redevelopment plan that says, it's actually a condition for restaurant uses that, that exhaust has to be at least above the second floor, can't be in a rooftop deck. So, I appreciate that you don't have the level of detail yet for how it will work, but is it a possibility that it might be facing the Wonder Bar below a second floor elevation?
No, it would be at least above the second floor.
Be compliant.
Well, you must comply to the
would be
waterfront redevelopment
Would it be
plan.
plan compliant?
Or we'd have to come back, so we
Yeah,
want to come back, so yes.
We would comply.
And I, presume that we don't want to exhaust it in the roof deck, that would really piss everybody off, wouldn't it? So, it's in your best interest to find a route. Okay. Okay, so there's potentially a restaurant in that, in that space.
Perfect restaurant space.
And no drive-through, that's the other condition on restaurants, there's no drive-through service.
Two vehicle drive.
Vehicle drive, route it right through the parking garage. Okay, all right, let me just quickly, those are that, that's that. The easement, very good, okay, did the height, okay. Spaces. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Okay. Do we have, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to bring up Joe from the construction company.
Let me just see if anyone else has any questions, because Mr. Minnow showed up again, he came through again. Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Okay, come on down.
All right, so at the last meeting, there was a question about construction logistics, and we obviously indicated that that was a negotiated item back and forth with the city. It's evidenced in the redevelopment agreement. There's a logistics plan and requirements agreement that's an exhibit to that agreement, but we were happy to provide the contractor to give a narrative of how this is going to work so that you have an understanding of that. So, Joe, if you could introduce yourself and your affiliation and experience.
Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about to give this matter, the truth and the truth, and nothing but the truth. Please state your name for the record, spelling, and tell us your affiliation with the applicant.
Joe Zoll, last name Zaugg. Work for Sordoni Construction. And my affiliation is we're working with Somerset, doing estimating and pre-construction help.
And Somerset engaged you to help them with the logistics plan that's evidenced as part of the redevelopment agreement, correct?
Correct.
All right, and your company prepared that?
This plan.
Yes. So could you, the board is interested in how this is going to get constructed. Could you just give them a general idea of how construction
Just looking
process
at,
will go?
absolutely. Talking through schedule, from the start to about month 4, we're going to be
Do you have
developing.
something for us, or no?
No, we're just
Because you're looking
referring
at
to
something.
something that the actual exhibit's part of the redevelopment agreement.
Okay.
That's the redevelopment agreement.
We're going to be developing the site, setting it up, doing erosion controls, and then foundations. So we'll be in the ground for about the first 4 months of the project. At that point, we'll go vertical. It's a cast-in-place concrete structure, so we'll be building, forming, and placing the concrete walls, shear walls, columns, and slabs from about month 5 to month 11. At that point, we'd be topped off. Behind that, starting at about month 9, we're going to start the facade, which is mainly a window wall system. That would occur from about month 9 to month 14, at which point the envelope would be complete, roofing would be done. So at that point, we begin doing interior finishes. So the building construction is mainly on the inside. With one exception, the amenity deck would occur. We would start that somewhere in the month 16, month 17 timeframe and complete that by the end date, which right now is a construction schedule of 23 months. Understanding the rules and the city regulations for parking around the building from May to September timeframe, we're going to do everything to our best ability to make sure that we're compliant in that while we perform our construction.
So it's a roughly 2-year process to build this building?
Yes.
Commencement.
Right, and the parking around it will not be impacted.
Well, you have a restriction on what can go
Right.
there during May to September, and the
Right.
intent is to be compliant with that. It's in the redevelopment agreement also.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, any questions from the board members?
This is, I just have, I'm curious about this in terms of logistics. I know it's not all detailed out yet, phasing, but is it in there in the redevelopment agreement to have pedestrian routing when the sidewalks are torn up and things like that?
Yeah, what we have is on Kingsley, what we've planned on Kingsley and on Ocean Avenue, we would have a sidewalk shed so that would leave the sidewalk open, pedestrians could walk underneath safely. On the 2 sides, not including the Wonder Bar, but the 2 sides that the building faces 5th and 4th Avenues, there would be a site fence into the right-of-way, into the parking area during the non-summer months, call it from September to April. And then during the summer months, that fence would be pulled back to the sidewalk, to the curb line.
Okay, so off-season, there would be no sidewalk there?
That's the plan is.
There would be no sidewalk there, period. They're
Yeah,
just saying
on
that they
or
would
off.
pull the.
Right, pedestrians would not be, it would just be parking, no sidewalk.
So it's parking in the on-season, and
And
no
no
parking, no
Right,
parking,
no sidewalk.
no sidewalk.
No parking when?
What am I saying?
In the off-season.
James, is that right?
There was no, it's not the full side of
Right.
4th Avenue, it's at the back half, towards Kingsley.
Yeah.
Maybe half the block, that's gonna be no parking during the off-season.
But it's not the entire block.
Not the entire block,
No.
but the sidewalks will be closed.
For the entire block.
So for 2 years, so the pedestrians go on
They have to be on either the south side of 4th or the north side of 5th.
Yeah.
Right, that,
I mean, that does cause condition, I mean,
Yeah,
not just, again, but just because we're creating the condition again currently on 3rd, which has, the construction's been stopped for a long time, but there's been no sidewalk for a long time.
right, so that, I agree that it's like now we have a situation where you have it on Fourth, now we have an issue now on Third. On the reverse side, people can't walk. So,
It's like a me.
so how are people gonna walk on Kingsley? Because they can't walk
There was
on,
a shed on Kingsley.
Yeah, they can walk on King.
Kingsley and Ocean have sheds, so they'll be open at all times for pedestrians.
It's the avenues.
Yeah, it's Fourth and Fifth.
You have to be on the outsides rather than the interior
For 2 years.
for 2 years.
It's not quite 2
But-
years, how long you-
but James, but the ones that, the current site that's there now, that is having, that's been in construction for quite a while, right on the opposite of Ocean, the Ocean Club.
On Third.
That,
Across Kingsley?
yes, on Kingsley, right in back of the Ocean Club.
4001, yep.
That is, can people walk there, or is that also going to be mazed? Because they can't walk on the west side of that street, and they won't be able to walk on the east side of this street.
No, Kingsley, they can walk on either side of.
On either side, they're gonna be, no matter what, no matter when.
No, Kingsley and Ocean, you'll be able to walk on either side of the sidewalk, on either side of the street. They're putting sheds up,
Okay,
so you can.
all right,
It's
so
only Fourth and Fifth.
Okay.
They're gonna be cutting the sidewalks.
I understand, then as long as Kingsley and Ocean are good.
Yeah, and
And
there's
that's
no
no
use
matter
of
the
parking
season.
along Ocean Avenue, right?
No loss, right?
Okay.
So not using any parking spaces along Kingsley or along Ocean Avenue.
Right.
So on Fourth, then you'd go to the Ocean Club side during that time?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'd go,
Fifth, you go to the park side.
go to the park side? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Because you know the condition I'm talking about on Third.
What?
Anyway, I mean, it's, because Third, it's a dangerous condition, like you can't walk. There's no sidewalk on Third for a long time, but nothing to do with this project.
Oh, because yeah.
I just didn't want to recreate that situation.
Agreed.
All right, any other questions for this witness? From board members? Professionals? Public? Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, that concludes our presentation.
So are we good with our professionals, that we're okay with the reports, that they've touched on all the conditions and we're satisfied with where we've landed? Go ahead.
In our notes from the last meeting, and I don't know if it's off the table or not based on previous testimony, but there was a request by the board to hear alternative designs for bump outs. Is that now no longer
We're in the same situation we were with the last project.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Anything else from either one of your reports that wasn't touched upon that you're, okay, all right. All right, then
I'll
we'll,
make sure that it has the standard conditions of compliance with outstanding recommendations and issues. Not only that, we covered the one that may have slipped through with Donna's report,
Mhm.
CCH report.
right, because like the address thing was in Donna's report.
Yeah, and I confer with both offices to make sure we cover all those.
Right, and all the venting will go to the waterfront redevelopment plan. Photometric plan will be all compliant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
I can
other?
give you a quick, we've got
Go ahead.
usual WRA conditions, CCH reports, insights reports. There's a city resolution with a silver certification compliant. I think that was in their resolution.
Well, we're going to be compliant, but we're not going to get the certificate.
Okay.
Great. Can I just ask when, at what point that the checklist goes in? The lead certification checklist. I know I know you're not going for certification, but it says lead checklist will be provided at what point during the process?
That's an architect question. Dave?
It should be at zoning permit. It would be after resolution compliance is satisfied, but it should be at zoning permit. That way.
You all right with that? At zoning permit.
And then it's up to zoning to decide if it's acceptable? Because there's been a...
Yeah, so they're gonna have to qualify it, I guess, before it can go to building department.
Okay.
Is there something you wanna try and put a condition on so that we can ensure compliance?
I don't know if you submit the checklist and then you don't comply, there's no...
Well, we've delineated the items that we're going to address. I mean, so they've got to be on the plan or we're not going to get a permit.
So the delineation is that list that's in the... Because
Correct.
meaning that might be more specific at that point, I would think, but maybe not. I mean, it's pretty general right now.
Pardon? Yeah, the testimony was that we'll meet the silver criteria. I think we tried to delineate
Right,
it,
but we're
but if
trying to
there's...
figure out how to administratively ensure.
So at the time of building permit, we got to get through zoning, and then if zoning catches that we're not compliant with the silver, we would get flagged and we wouldn't be able to get to the construction
Theoretically,
permit.
you might need to provide assistance to Mary Ann.
Right. Okay.
Anything else, Jack?
Yeah, subject to fire official approval. You received anything from the fire department?
I think we got approved from the fire. But that's
If
the
it's-
standard.
If not already received type of
Right.
thing. All the standard CAFR outside agency approvals, all light fixtures are downward and programmable, never be at 100%. We've got the construction phasing plan, the fence, the wall between the project and the Wonder Bar will not exceed 6 feet. The lighting is all going to be ordinance compliant. Sign package will be.
That'll be what waterfront redevelopment?
WRA compliant.
Regulation. We'll work on the language.
Yeah, the mural has to be submitted to the Arts Council for review and approval. They're gonna address the inside comments, comply with the recommendations. Existing easement needs to be extended to access as per CCH report that was brought up here. Ground floor commercial space, any restaurant proposal exhaust will be plan compliant. That's basically, there are a few others that.
We just want to make sure that we, one of the things that we're requesting these days, and you already know this, is the material board. So we need to make sure that there are material boards available.
That's it.
Yeah, we submitted that as part of the record, and that's part of the
You have to
record.
leave those.
Yeah, they've got to be left.
Okay.
Okay?
Hey, she gets them.
Yeah.
We got a big pile of them.
She's going.
And we have, we put an exhibit in that has all of them on one sheet, so it's easy to
Yep,
monitor.
yep, when we'll need the physical pieces. All right, is there any, are we okay, Jack?
Yep.
Okay. All right, is there any, can I get a motion to open up to the public for public comment?
Should, and I'm gonna ask James, because he has it, I had it home too, I forgot to bring it, like, when we did the redevelopment plan, we had a map of the phasing with Sardoni in the middle and then a round circle showing it. Should that be added to this? And James can furnish it to you,
I think I have the map if you want.
so everybody's on the same page, I mean.
Well, you could make a condition we're compliant with the redevelopment agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's your staging plan is contained within.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just, got it. Thanks.
All right, can I get a motion to open up for public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, anyone from the public that would like to make a comment on this project as a whole? Huh?
Hey, Michael Goonan, 1101 Ocean Avenue.
Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear testimony about giving this matter with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
First one, I know you brought up the mural already tonight. I just want to make sure that that's definitely a condition that the mural exists. And then my only other comment was about trees. Jennifer, I know you don't love the cherry trees. I live at the Ocean Club, and we have a heck of a time keeping trees alive between Ocean Avenue and Kingsley Avenue, but the cherry trees have done really well. So I'm a huge proponent for cherry trees here, but yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I vote for cherry trees.
Anyone else? All right, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
We got a second from
All in favor?
Yvonne.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve this I'm sorry. Any comments from board members that they'd like to share? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to approve this application with the conditions noted that we just discussed?
Move it.
I'll second.
Gotcha. James Bonanno,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clayton,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Jim Henry.
I can't vote on this. Mr. First.
Sorry. Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Jennifer Sauter.
Yes.
Michael Goonan is recused, and Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
We're gonna be here all night.
All right, we second. That's it, we brought snacks.
Great job.
All right.